There we are, people. You're not seeing things. This is episode show 6. We definitely got an episode 7 coming up. Either way, welcome back to Hollie's Hotspurs and Albert JTV. So much to talk about, but before we get into it, people, let's hit a little thing called, what's it called again, Hollie? The intro, that's what we call it. If I could find it, we'll be back very, very, very shortly. Here we go, people. Footballing community, we have certainly been here before. Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions are into another semi-final. Star boy Bukayo Saka has shown his class. And the penalties from England were super ice cool. Hollie's Hotspurs meets Albert JTV, hashtag match review time. Good afternoon. I was going to say good evening. It's actually good afternoon, technically speaking. It's 17:08 and 5 seconds counted as we speak. Welcome back, people, to the Euro 2024 joint collaboration of Albert JTV meets Hollie's Hotspurs. Or if you're watching it on Hollie's Hotspurs, it's Hollie's Hotspurs meets Albert JTV. For Hollie, the afternoon after, the afternoon before, England are in other semi-finals. The grey hairs are showing, people, but you just cannot see it at the moment because it's daytime. Hollie, how have you been, or is that a stupid question?
A little bit of one. I think I kind of allude to everybody's kind of thing that was bloody stressful from start to finish, as it always is with Spurs. I said Spurs then, Jesus, with England.
Hold on a minute, Hollie. Hold on. Go on, I'll let you on.
It's because I saw flashbacks of what it was like watching Spurs last season at times. But no, I'm glad that we've had a day to kind of reset, just take it all in, and now talk about it properly today. So yeah, how about you, Albert?
Well, Hollie, another year older, another England tournament. You might not believe this, actually. It's obviously quite torturous watching England, but I was quite angry after the last game, I'm going to be honest. But yesterday I was a bit more, I can't say I wasn't stressful, but I wasn't like I was the round before. And people, like I say, smash the like button for Albert JTV and Hollie's Hotspurs. And like I said, all the listeners, you won't be forgotten because you'll hear everybody's dulcet tones. But let's get into it. We've got an amazing guest. I need to give him the intro he deserves because I don't get him on that often. Football's 12th man podcast, people, if you're aware. AFTV regular. And of course, he appears on Lee Judge's TV. The main man, I call him hashtag Potsy. Bring it down, Pots, people. There he is. Good, Dad. Dad, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that, man. Big up to both of you for having me on. Big up to everybody here, and love the intro, man. Honestly, thanks for having me on. It's been a long time coming, bro, and it's busy times, but you do a lot for me, man. A lot for my channel, a lot for my content. So I had to come say hello to you guys, man, and big up to Hollie as well.
Yeah, no, Dan, love to get you on. And you know what? Sometimes getting people onto your channel, Hollie, you might sympathize with this. Sometimes getting certain people on at the right time, man. I can't think of anything better after talking about England and a particular player who we're going to talk about because I want to have my monologue about him, but we'll come on to it later. But let's kick off. So, Dan, England in another semi-final, but we'll talk about obviously the game yesterday. A lot's been spoken about in terms of England switching it up tactically, and they've been tactically found wanting this tournament. But was you pleased to see them switch to a back three? And how did you feel about the personnel within that change of system?
Mate, I thought it was shocking again, bruv. I can't lie to you. I thought it was awful again. I don't understand what these commentators were watching, if I'm honest, in the first half. I see Michael Richardson, Rio Ferdinand getting extremely excited over a first half that was dull and boring as anything. I mean, how they were trying to explain what a pleasure it is watching Phil Foden in this role. I thought he was invisible again, man. Harry Kane, like absolute shambolic performance yet again, and we're trying to big this guy up as this sort of leader and captain. It's poor, but I didn't understand the Kieran Trippier situation.
Yeah.
I thought that selection was bizarre. I thought he was going to be playing right wing back ahead of Trent. Looks like now Trent is not just behind Kyle Walker and Trippier, he's behind Saka as well now. I mean, real talk, if I'm Trent at the next tournament, I'll probably do a Ben White, if I'm honest, and just say, look, it's calm. Just leave me at home because you don't rate me. I was really pleased to see him get the winning penalty, which we'll come on to. But for me, the actual selection I thought was a bit bizarre, but I understood why we were trying to change the system. My only thing was, it was only a little bit better. It wasn't like, wow, this is free-flowing England. This is such great football now. Finally, Bellingham and Foden have got into this game. Kane is linking up well. We've got, the likes of our midfield pulling the strings. I didn't really see that. I disagreed that we dominated the game. I didn't see much domination from England, if I'm honest. I thought that it was a very dull, boring England performance, which is what we've seen from the last few games. So I don't really care about this notion of Southgate just, gets us there. It doesn't matter how he does it. He just keeps getting us there. This is the easiest draw I've ever seen to a tournament so far. Like, we've had Serbia, Slovenia, Denmark, Slovakia, and Switzerland. You get the Netherlands, who don't look outstanding, by the way. That's 6 teams that we get out of the 7 games to try and win it. So we're basically going to have either Spain or France as the only hard game we've played in the whole tournament. And people are lapping up about this guy as if like it's another semi-final. Mate, have you seen our team compared to the teams we should have been beating? We should have been wiping the floor. We should have been putting 4 or 5 past these teams, not scraping through on the last minute overhead kicks and penalties. It's just the embarrassment, really, as far as I'm concerned. But listen, we're in the semi-finals again. I don't like the manager. I think he's a clown. I still stand by it. I think he's rubbish. I think we need to get rid of him ASAP. But everyone seems to be happy with this guy. Easily pleased some people, I tell you this now. Oh, it don't matter. We're just in the semis. It doesn't matter how you get there, blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't matter how you get there. But this is absolute dire to watch. And it's stressful. I mean, big up to the 5 penalty takers, by the way, because they deserve a mention.
We'll come on to that.
But Jesus Christ, man. Absolutely embarrassment. Like, people are getting excited about this. Like, wow, this is great to see. This has been the worst England tournament I can remember in a long time, bro. Like, real talk. I watched Graham Taylor and Steve McLaren and, like, who else has there been? Fabio Capello and Roy Hodgson. I watched all these guys, and some of their stuff was better than this. And this is better players. So, yeah, man, it ain't great. I can't lie. I'm not excited by it at all, if I'm honest.
There you go. So, Hollie, I'll come to you. Actually, I will come to you, but I'm going to say my little bit of monologue. So, Dan, you made a good point in regards to when it came to half time, because I was watching the game like everybody else. And I thought, what are these guys talking about in the studio? Like, I generally honestly thought I'd seen something completely different. Hollie, and again, coming to you with the tactical change side of it. And Hollie, obviously, you'll be lucky enough not to remember the Graham Taylor years. You don't remember them, man. There's actually a documentary. If I ever find it, I'm gonna send it to you. It's the poor years of England, trust me. But even with the tactical switch, right? I kind of got it in the sense that why Saka's on the right, because if you're going to bring Konza in, right, who's only had 6 caps, I think it was, to put Saka on the same side as Konza, and then you have Trippier and Kyle Walker on the opposite side, it actually wouldn't really make any sense. So I understand why Saka's on the right, but you'll finally play a system where it would have been ideal for Trent to come in. And again, he's not come on until more or less until the penalties. What did you make of sort of the tactical switch and obviously what you saw in the first half?
I mean, it was nice because we've been screaming out for a tactical change, but then you think to yourself, what is the point of this tactical change if you're not going to play the personnel to best fit it? And don't get me wrong, I think we were all saying, we don't like the fact that Trent's playing in that 6th position in front of the kind of defence, which was driving a lot of people up the wall. But like you said, when you play him where he should be playing, then it does kind of balance the side out. But it seems like because Southgate made that choice to play him in that 6th role and it kind of backfired, he's now too scared to play him where he should do. And again, I think the only bit I could really talk about at halftime that I kind of agreed with like Michael Richards, and that was the fact that they were talking about Konza, and like you kind of alluded to, Albert, the fact that he hasn't played obviously a lot of caps for England sort of thing.
No.
And he was trying to learn his craft in the middle, which I think he did do well as the game carried on. So yeah, it was nice to see a back three, but again, a little bit of tweaking, a bit more would have probably made it a little bit better. But yeah, the first half again was just dull and boring. And it's just like I feel to myself, why don't I just bother watching? I might as well just watch the last 15 minutes because that's when it all kind of happens. And
Kicks off.
I kind of want to carry on, Albert, and come straight to you first. And again, why does it always take a goal to go in for Southgate to be like, oh, I do have subs on the bench that I can use? Like, what is that? Is that just Southgate and himself?
How long have we got for this podcast? I don't want to keep you guys forever, but I mean, the first 15 minutes were talking about the first 15 minutes in particular. Phil Foden, I thought he was bright. I thought it was quite good, but Switzerland made a little bit of a tactical tweak where after the first 15 minutes, Hollie, he didn't get a touch on the ball. He didn't affect the game. You know, you brought in more centrally. You've got Bellingham playing. Mainu's come in the side. Who's listen. I'm an Arsenal fan, as you know. I think he's fantastic, by the way. You've got Saka wide right, and we still can't get this guy to affect the game. In terms of Southgate and the changes, and I've said this to you before, so I'm repeating, I'm copying, pasting, repeating. He was a defender as a player, and it shows in the way the team play for me, and in terms of the lack of tactical awareness or tweaks or the subject, because you could tell from in the second half the way the game was going. And I think the best way to answer your question before I come to Dan is the game was 0-0. Murat Yakin has made 2 substitutions. Why has he made them substitutions? To affect the game and to try and win the game. And as you mentioned, Hollie, I'm going to come to Dan actually before I go into, like I said, Dan, like he made the 2 tactical tweaks, Murat Yakin, and brought 2 players on. And they scored from it. And it just frustrates me that we could see the way the game was going. It's a tight affair, 0-0. They make the changes, they go 1-0 up. What's your thoughts, Potsy, bro?
Yeah, I'm with you. There's no proactive. It's all reactive. There's never, ever any proactive substitutions. Doesn't show any form of tactics, in my opinion. Southgate sticks with what he knows and he don't change it. And the only 2 players he did bring off, I thought were 2 of our best players, Konza and Mainu. I actually thought had really good games. And I didn't really understand why they deserve to come off ahead of some of the others. But yeah, he is a manager who has so much attacking quality on the bench or change of personnel, talented bench that he's got in front of him that he doesn't seem to want to use. You wouldn't know that Ollie Watkins or Anthony Gordon were on our squad.
It's true.
You probably wouldn't have much of an idea that Trent is actually there, really. So yeah, there's definitely some problems there. Ivan Toney, you know, he kind of said, we brought him on because he takes penalties. Well, we brought him on with about 30 seconds to go in the last game.
Yeah.
And that was because Trippier got an injury. This time, Harry Kane falls over a call box. So I better bring him off now as well. Like, it's embarrassing, isn't it? Like, this is just honestly, man, like, what is happening here? Like, the manager is so poor. It is embarrassing. And unfortunately, bruv, what happens is when we go through these sort of games, he gets away with it because he looks like a genius by bringing on Toney, who links up with Kane to win us the game. He looks like a genius leaving Kane and Bellingham on in the last game and they then score the winning goals. He looks like a genius in this game because he's got the guys on to take penalties like Palmer and Toney, and they've done it and they've taken us through. Trent, likewise. So when 3 of your subs come on to take penalties and win you the game, he looks like a genius again. But this is the luckiest manager that I've known in a long time. I mean, I've never seen draws that fall this way so easy for him in the last few competitions. And he's still not won us a tournament, by the way. This is what makes me laugh. How many bloody managers could we have had to get us through a tournament so far? Quite a long list. And we've still got this guy in charge. Like, real talk, man. I'm sick of him. I can't wait for him to go. Honestly, like, cannot wait for this guy to go. It's boring. Every single game that I've watched so far that has bored me has been an England game. Like, even some of the boring ones that had some spark in it, like Portugal-France was dull the other night, but at least it had a little bit of stank in it with the penalties. Do you know what I'm saying? England's have just been meh every single time, man. And The manager. Like, you just can't tell me that Harry Kane can win golden boots with Spurs and with Bayern Munich as well now, by the way. Phil Foden gets player of the season, wins a treble. Jude Bellingham wins La Liga and the Champions League and is a Ballon d'Or nominator. You got Rice and Saka balling out for Arsenal. You put them all together and they play like Stoke. That's the manager. That has nothing to do with the individual qualities. So for me, I'm sick and tired of him. I can't wait for him to go. I think he will go after this tournament, even if we win it, if I'm honest. And then it will be about who takes over, which would be another podcast. But I must say, bro, I think it's been poor. And to scrape through in the games the way we're doing it is shambolic, mate. I mean, I'm not saying Switzerland are poor, but as good as they've been, we should be beating them, mate. I mean, you look at the players they've got and the players we've got. Man's bringing on Shaqiri, who must be about 106 now. And we've got, we've got players that should be balling out. And, like they're playing Fabian Schär at right back and like Granit Xhaka's their best player. We've got all these Ballon d'Or nominators and treble winners and Premier League winners. And we can't get past like comfortably against Serbia, Slovenia and Switzerland. Like, yeah, it's poor, man. But listen, there's a lot of people that back Southgate. I don't know why, but they do love him because they've brought him nice and he handles the media well and he wears a waistcoat. Like, do me a favor, man. Just like, honestly, Jesus, it's embarrassing, bro.
Yeah, I think you could tell from Dan's monologue, Hollie, that he's probably a bit tired of the manager. We've had this discussion because when England went 1-0 down, I'm going to be honest, I was ready to go in on our podcast if England had gone that because I just said to myself, they've gone 1-0 down as a poor goal to concede, by the way. And I don't know what your thoughts are, Hollie. I said this last time and I had no problem saying it again. For one of England's experienced players, I'm talking defensively here, I think Kyle Walker's been awful. I'm looking at somebody, I mean, in the last game when he almost passed the ball to the player, when John Stones wasn't even looking, they could have been 2-0 down and out of the tournament. But I thought partly that goal was his fault, conceded at the back post personally. I know it got a little bit of deflection, but Hollie, we go 1-0 down and I was ready to go in when we did our pod. I'll be honest, I said, why are you only making changes, as Dan just said? You're being reactive, man. Be proactive, be active, be something other than reactive. Like we're going home in 10, 13 minutes at the time. Makes a substitution. I think what did he bring on? It's gone off my head, Hollie, top of my head. He brought on, I think obviously Cole Palmer came on. It's gone out my head now. But it's just, it's just, you can't only respond when you're losing, particularly in tournament football, and especially, in knockout football as well. But he makes the changes, and Hollie, a certain man has rescued England to make it 1-1. I'll say our star boy from the Albert JTV side of it. Sorry, because I know we go live on both channels. Hollie, I'm going to obviously get your thoughts and you bring Dan in, but I also want to come back to me because I want to sort of say a monologue about Saka because there's been a lot said in terms of from a newspaper article point of view. And from Dan does a channel where he gets a plethora of different rival fans on, and from how can I put it politely because it's before Watershed, rival football fan opinion of Bukayo Saka, to put it politely. But Hollie, bright in the first half. England's outlet, a main threat for me throughout the course of the match, and he comes up with a wonder goal. Hollie, do you take it from there?
No, I think you're right. And I'm glad that you kind of said rival fans nicely because, as you know, all tournament, I haven't really been his best friend in terms of giving him loads of glowing reviews. But
yes.
My word, he was incredible. And just that finish as well to plonk it right in the back of the left corner. It's just incredible. But you're right. He took on his man. I think that was the most frustrating thing for me at times in this tournament. I just feel like you've got the ability, just go do it. When in this game he did it, he had his man every single time. And the way he'd cut in into the box and try and look for someone. So Saka was brilliant that game. And I hold my hands up and say, wow, I shouldn't have been so critical in the games before. But I think that's kind of credit to him.
Sorry, Hollie, let me cut in there. Sorry, can you repeat that again, please, for the Albert JTV listeners?
No, it's only happening once. But no, he was a very bright spark in that game. And when we needed someone to add a bit more, and I think it's just the way that we've been playing with Southgate in terms of no one really expresses themselves or they have the confidence to go and express themselves because we just play so boringly. And I think it was so nice to see him just get off the shackles and go and do his thing. But yeah, Saka was incredible. And Dan, I know that obviously you and Albert obviously watch him week in, week out. Would you say obviously that game was definitely, I think, slightly different from the games before, but do you think, obviously, I know we'll move on to like the penalties and that later on, but do you think the confidence of him in that England squad to go and do what he wants to do is something that, not that we want to see, because obviously I see it with blinkered visions being a Spurs fan, but is it now right to show everybody in that game specifically that Saka is a star boy and we all need to give him the respect that he deserves?
Yeah, man, listen, I love the kid. I've got so much time for him. You can't help but love him. Whoever you support, whoever you look at in terms of somebody that doesn't even support look at football. We forget how many people watch England without really supporting a team. You actually forget that. You know, I was around a friend of mine's watching the game with a few people yesterday, and most of the women, they don't support a team. They don't watch football, and all of them went, "Oh, I love him. Who's that?" And it's like, you know, there's just so much love for this kid, man. And those that don't then know about it and start to read about it, then start going, okay, so this was the guy who missed the penalty, who got racially abused, and everyone just went for him. And then they start to look at the story. And I think yesterday's smile for me when he took that penalty was insane. I thought the performance was outstanding in terms of what everybody else was doing. And people forget, right? This kid has played everywhere in this tournament. This kid's played right midfield, right wing, right fullback, right wing back, left wing back, left back. And he's just done it with ease. There's been no trying to settle in period. There's been no, he doesn't give us balance. Wherever he's played, he hasn't moaned. He said, put me anywhere. He is a top talent. And, you know, at 22 years old, you forget how much he's been around and what he's done for club and country already. People can always definitely question the fact he hasn't won anything, so can't be world class. He hasn't contributed to a trophy yet, blah, blah, blah. That's calm, but it doesn't mean that he's not a good footballer. And I don't really care if people believe that he's top talent, world class, best in the world, one of the best in the world. For me, he's doing his thing for club and country, and I absolutely love the kid. You talk about the mentality, you talk about passion, desire, drive, bounce back ability, resilience. This kid's got it, man, and I love him. I love everything about him. I thought the performance yesterday, by far one of our best players. In the first game, had the left back on toast. In this game, had every player on toast. He's been a bright spark wherever he's played for England. And I think when you look at what he has done for his country in the last few tournaments, I think it's been nothing short of fantastic. I really do. I think he's easily been one of our best players consistently. And he gets a lot of hate and he gets a lot of stick and he takes it so well. You know, there's a lot of rival fans that look at him and they actually throw hate at Arsenal fans, not at Saka. But they throw hate at Saka because they're wound up by Arsenal fans. So they'll say, this kid ain't world class, by the way, you Arsenal fans. This kid ain't that great. How about you just pipe down? When actually the kid's like superb. You know, he's doing well and deserves the praise. So there is a section of the fan base in any fan base that will world class, Phil Foden's world class, because they support Tottenham and Manchester City. And there's Arsenal fans doing rightly the same thing with Saka saying that he's world class. I don't really care if you think he is or isn't. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and I think he's going to be one of the best players that Arsenal will have in a very long time. I just look at everything about him and think you've got everything as a footballer. I absolutely love the player, and he's just, when we needed something, he gave us it. We needed a shot from outside the box. We needed a moment of magic. We needed him to take somebody on. We needed that cut inside and that shot that Albert and I have seen so many times for Arsenal. And he delivered. And I think he deserves it. I think he deserves all applaudits. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer kid, man. Honestly, he's just an absolute gem. I love him so much, man.
Right, Dan, well said, man. Let me come in. Hollie, you might have to cut in and take over, man, because this is going to get a bit passionate. So I did a show on my channel specifically about Bukayo Saka. And I can't remember what I titled it now, but it was about Bukayo Saka. So that's the most important thing. But there's two ways I'm gonna look at this. I don't care if people say this, think this is bias or because I'm an Arsenal fan. I couldn't care less. I'm gonna say it strong. There's two ways you can look at it. I'm going to take it from the point of the newspaper coverage not too long ago when England played in the friendly against Iceland. And he was the face of everything that was wrong. I'm I've seen some people subsequently in the last 24 hours, bring out the racism thing again. And the point that I saw someone tweet about was that if you look at all the sort of tabloids or the broadsheets, whatever you want to look at it, someone made the point of, but the Mirror Sport or the Sun newspaper put Saka on the back or the front. That's not the point. It should have been universal. It should have been on front and back of every single newspaper in this country, and there's context to it. That was the point. My other point is, people talk about football rivalry. People talk about banter in inverted commas. What is aimed at this guy, in particular, Bukayo Saka, it goes beyond that for me. It almost even goes beyond football, if you want me to be brutally honest. And for what? What are we really talking about here? For somebody who's effectively good at their job. I've never seen a footballer in my living lifetime, Potsy and Hollie, we're different ages, and I know times have changed now with social media, but I've never seen a footballer where the narrative is consistently changed, constantly changed around him, and he's 22 years of age. What are we doing here as content creators? And let me be very specific about what I'm saying when I say content creators. I see a lot of black and brown content creators ridicule him. You ridicule one of your own, a successful young black man. So this is why I always say to Potsy and to Hollie and to people that know me very, very well, I don't really listen to a lot of the black and brown content creators when they want to talk about racism. Because let me tell you something, you fuel the nonsense and the crap on top of them already giving him the nonsense they already give him when you're doing this to one of your own. And then you want to have the cheek and audacity to turn around and talk about it's banter and football rivalry. No, it's not. Ridicule and football banter are not the same thing. So do better. We're talking about a young guy here. He's 22. England player 2 years in a row. I saw a stat. He's won 11 man of the match performances in an England shirt. Who's got the most England goals in the England shirt behind Harry Kane? He surpassed David Beckham in terms of tournaments, in terms of goals scored for England. What are we doing here? Big up Jadon Sancho in his Instagram story. You did it for me and Marcus. That's when people talk about it's bigger than football. So people out there who want to, listen, I've seen people, Hollie, Potsy, this is why I don't wear an England shirt and all this, that. But these are the same content creators. I'll tell you what, if you feel so strongly about it, don't do watch-alongs for England matches in the Euros. I guarantee you go and check on the channel. They've gone and done it, though. Revenue. So it suits you when it suits you, doesn't it? Oh, you can't have a go at Kobe Mainu. Oh, so now you want to talk up now. When it was Saka, it was banter and it was fun. So words matter. So that's why I feel so strongly about it. Yes, I love my football and England to do well and go through. I'm going to say something before I finish up, before Hollie asks his next question. Rio Ferdinand tweeted this morning about, the ethnicities and the background of the 5 England penalty takers of black and mixed heritage. That's a powerful thing. We have got short memories. We saw what happened 3 years ago. And someone responded to, I think, Rio's point, and I'm going to read it out. It was an Instagram post. I don't know who the guy was. He said, to everyone saying these posts are stirring up hatred, no, they're not. We have a right to remind people how they acted when black players missed the penalty. This is for the racists to remember that this moment, especially if the black players miss a penalty or if something goes wrong for England in this tournament, remember how English those players were in success. Remember how English they are in defeat. Anybody calling it stirring up hatred is clearly uncomfortable with this. Put yourself in Saka's shoes and think about how he would have felt taking that penalty yesterday. And that's what I'm going to say. So whether people like it or don't like it, unsubscribe, I don't care. Because you know what? I was call it out when I need to call it out. So fair play to Saka and all the guys took a penalty yesterday. Hollie, come to you, man.
That does lead on obviously nicely to those penalties, and like I said, it was great to see Saka score that pen. I think his celebration as well was didn't he go like this? Was that when he scored the goal about all the noise and everybody talking about him, which was quite nice. But Dad, I'll come to you because obviously the penalties were insane. And I think it was just the confidence. I mean, the one for me was Tony's. He didn't even look at the ball,
Wow.
just staring the goalkeeper into his soul. So what did you make of the penalties, Dan? Oh, he's on mute. You're on mute, Dan.
Mate, I keep clicking the button. I never ever do it. And that's why I've had this important stuff going on out elsewhere, and I keep thinking if that says something, like if that shouts out, it's gonna be embarrassing. So
Yeah.
keep it mute without knowing. Listen, I said before that the 5 penalty takers deserve absolute praise. And big up to all 5 of them, because I honestly believe that we've got some excellent penalty takers in the English setup. And yeah, we've seen why. I mean, they were impressive, but all of them were very different penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, the Trent one that won it was more like a free kick penalty. He just absolutely blasted it. Tony, as you say, Hollie didn't even look. I mean, that is cold. Talking of cold, Cole Palmer, I mean, one of the best penalty takers I have seen in recent history. I'm not even lying to you.
Yeah.
I think in the Premier League, he is one of the best penalty takers, if not the best, right now. And Bukayo Saka's was a side netting one, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it was inch perfect. So we're talking about penalty takers here that have come up with a hell of a lot of pressure, that are probably at the average age of around 22 years old.
Yeah.
Jude Bellingham's 21, Saka's 22. You've got Cole Palmer, who I think is 21 years old as well. So really, other than Tony, they're all young kids, And Tony, to be fair, hasn't been to any tournaments of late that you'd look at and go, yeah, at least he's got the experience of that. So I think that was incredibly impressive. And the other thing you've got to take into account is we were slating Southgate, to be fair, in his defense, in the last tournament that we took a penalty shootout, for bringing young kids and putting them in that position.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the only thing I can say credit to him for, because when you're putting Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford and Bukayo Saka at the time when they were 18, 19 or 20, you're putting them through that. You're saying, do you know what? I believe in you. And when it goes wrong, he gets the blame, and rightly so. So we have to give him the praise for that, to be fair. And I think he did get enough praise, I thought anyway, from that Gareth Southgate in relation to the positives that you could take from the game. One of them, of course, was that positive that he did get those guys forward and bring them on, and 3 of them were subs, if you remember. So I think you've got to look at that and say fair play. I have got to touch on the back of what Albert says, because I think it's absolutely spot on in relation to Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka. It was horrific. Totally agree with what Albert's saying about the British media. Saka being on the back pages. I mean, wow, this guy had come on for about 15 seconds, it seemed, and he was the one on the back pages. So it's a massive screw you and a massive middle finger to all of those people. And I think as well, you've just got to say to them as an age and collect how fantastic they were in those tense environments. You can't big up the manager too much or big up the team performance too much, but you can big up the 5 individuals who took those penalties, because they literally held their bottle, and everybody was waiting for him to bottle it, to put it over the bar like Kane once did, to miss like Saka once did, to do that again. I think everyone was like, who's it going to be? And luckily it was actually a Man City player on the other side. So who everyone felt sorry for in the end. It was a poor penalty, I must say, from Akanji. But I'm a big fan of what I saw. And I think that, that in a time where we want England to be scoring penalties, it goes back to the history of how many times we've missed. And I've seen many, many tournaments, whether it goes to 96 with Southgate missing, whether it's 98 with Ince and Batty missing, whether you go through to the Italian 2012, whether you go through to the other missed penalties that we've had over the years that stick into your mind. The ones that of late have been very, very good to watch. Colombia being one, and then obviously this one. The one you'll always remember is the one in the final, of course. And I think everybody will probably still go back to that one. Bukayo Saka will still not think, right, that's over then. That will always be in his head. Likewise, Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. But a way to shut people up, Trent shutting people up. This is why I should be starting. I've just won you the tournament. Saka, this is why, people can slate me and racially abuse me, but I'll just keep England in the tournament and score my penalty so they go through. That's the way to shut people up, man. And I think the young lads have done that. So big up to them. Massive, massive fans of all those penalties. Great to see that they're all so different, because I think that's always important. But the mentality of the young kids, man, was cold. I can't lie.
Well said, Potsy, man. You make a good point about the penalty thing because Hollie, I know you're only like 18, 21 years of age. I think I'm not. I can't remember how old you are, Hollie, but
I'm a bit older than that, Albert. Jesus.
well, you're not. Well, we're not. You're not near my age. I know that for definite. But you say some of these penalties, you won't have seen the pain, man. There's this etched all over my face. But so we're going into the penalties yesterday. I mean, I can't say I've ever felt confident as an England fan watching a penalty shootout. Because you even look at some of the guys that didn't take penalties, that couldn't take penalties. And Kane wasn't even on the pitch. And you've got shout out to Jordan Pickford, man. People can say what they want to say about him. But when it comes in, if I was a centre half, well, I think I'd throttle him. He's so overexcitable in the goal. But penalty shootout wise, you'd back him 100%. You know, I think the Nations League against Switzerland, he saved the penalty. In Russia 2018, he saved the penalty in the last, I think it's the last 16 against Colombia. He saved the penalty yesterday. I mean, to save 2 penalties in a final in Euros and not win, that's tough to take. And he saved 2 amazing penalties, by the way. So you've got a goalkeeper who you can rely on and does his homework, and you've got amazing spot takers. I mean, unbelievable. The Tony penalty, all of them. Cole Palmer, Saka, Jude, yeah, man, incredible. But obviously you don't want it to get to that stage to rely on the penalties. But so I won't want to keep you two guys long. But before I go into this even more, if you don't know what to do by now, people, if I can find it, Hollie, this is what you should be doing. Where's it gone? There you have it, people. A little intro to subscribe to Albert J TV and, of course, my YouTube England wife. You like the way I changed that? I didn't put the T word in there or the S word in there. Subscribe to Hollie's Hotspurs as well, people. But yeah, listen. England are in the semi-finals. We'll come back to Dan again. In terms of the centre half or defensive side of it, I personally thought Konza was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, does Mark Gay come straight back in, or do you stick with Ezri Konza?
So Gehi, for me, has been the most consistent England player, I think.
Yeah, he's really good.
So it would be incredibly harsh to have to drop him because he got suspended, which I still think is Kieran Trippier's fault, by the way. That was a suicidal pass.
Yeah, awful pass.
I mean, for me, he's been the worst player England have had. Even Kane, it's just been a worry trying to watch him try and play at left wing back and left back, man. Jesus Christ. So for me, I'll be bringing Gehi in. I like Konza, I do. I think Konza had a really good game. But Konza's there to be that solid backup. And I think if you're going to play 3 at the back, the defender I would drop would not be Gehi or Konza. It would be Kyle Walker, who I think's had an absolute stinker of a tournament.
Very poor.
And people make me laugh when they go, "Oh, Kyle Walker is one of the greatest ever." His recovery pace. Hang on, just stop there. What did you just say? Recovery pace. So this guy's getting done every time, and because he's quick, you think he's one of the best in the world. Nah, man, he's a very, very good player, and he is one of the best right backs that we've seen. But when you get told that your best attribute is your recovery pace, that means you're getting done quite a lot, bro. Yeah. So stop getting done, and then you won't need to have to worry about running back. Like this guy is getting man. It's frustrating. I think he's been poor. He's been poor, mate. And John Stones, I mean, I'm starting to wonder if it's John Stones or Mustafi at times. I mean, crikey, what has he done this tournament? He has been off his head, hasn't he? Like at one stage, he wasn't even looking at the ball when it was passed. He was looking up in the sky in one of the games. I couldn't believe it. So those two ain't been too sharp, to be fair. So Gehi and Konza are the two that can actually look at potentially getting a look in. I think Konza will be dropped, and I think it will be Gehi, Stones, and Walker. I still think it will be a similar team, if not exactly the same team that lines up against the Netherlands, if I'm honest. But if we're going to stick with a 3 at the back, bruv, I think it will probably be Gehi, John Stones, and Kyle Walker, mate.
No, I said, Hollie, coming to you. I know you have a question as well, but this is my issue or problem, right? So Luke Shaw unbelievably came on. He had a good little cameo when he came on. I know Frank Lampard was saying he should start. I'm like, hold on a minute, Frank. He's not played since February. Like you need to calm. Like I know. Listen, I understand that he gives England balance down that side, and that's what we do have in the team and the squads over the recent games. Is there's an imbalance, but that's a big risk to start Luke Shaw. And I get it. Holland will cause us more problems. They will. We'll come back to Potsy at some point quickly, but for you, does Shaw come in, or do you start with Trippier and then, if it's going a bit more as it has done for the past 4 or 5 games, you bring Luke Shaw in to give us that balance? Because it looked better when he did come on, to be fair.
I think so. I don't think Southgate's going to push Shaw to start straight away.
No,
And I think that would
shot.
probably be the wrong thing to do. I would like to see him a little bit earlier, though. But as we all know, Southgate doesn't like to do that. So we'll probably go behind before he decides to make that tactical change. But no, I think he should have more minutes in this game. Like you say, like the imbalance, seeing Trippier having to take a touch, passing the ball backwards, rather than being natural enough to just take his man on, it's driving me nuts. I think it's driving everyone nuts. But yeah, I think it'd be too much of a risk to start Shaw in the next game.
Yeah, the England, they've got to be better with the ball, man. I'm not talking about playing a high tempo pace like the Turkey. Turkey were brilliant at talking, by the way. I know Turkish was out there actually, Potsy. The atmosphere must have been unreal. But Holland's going to be a different side, man. Listen, I'm going to come to you, Potsy, actually. Look at their team lineup for the game yesterday, because I know they've not probably lit the tournament on fire, but there have been some games, and by the way, Cody Gakpo's been brilliant for them. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You can see why now clubs were linked with him. So Potts, I've got their team lineup from yesterday. Who should England be wary of, or where can we get at them?
Well, I don't really look at their team and think they've got any individual that we have to focus on, because when you look at one of those players, the other one will light up. They've got a good side. Yeah. I think defensively, they're probably the strongest, to be fair.
Yeah.
I rate Ake. We all know about Van Dijk. I think De Vrij is a player that's probably been overlooked and underrated over the last few years. And then Dumfries on his day can cause some serious problems going forward. Always been a fan of Xavi Simons over the last couple of years, and I'm surprised that PSG are looking to try to get rid of him. He's going to Bayern Munich, it seems. I don't think he's lit up the tournament, but he certainly looks like.
Yeah.
But you're right, man. I think Cody Gakpo is the one. Now at Liverpool, I've not been a huge fan of him, bro. I don't look at him and think, wow, that's a guy that you look at who's going to get you 10, 15 goals a season, when quite clearly you should do. I think he scored quite a few last season, but you don't look at him to light the place up. You know, you don't look at him as the main guy. But he's had a very good tournament so far. So I think if you was to concentrate just on Cody Gakpo, that might bring Simmons into the game. The way I see it, though, if I'm honest with you, is I think that England have to have the balance right, but also we have to look at how we get the best out of our attacking-minded players. And if we was to concentrate on one of those individuals, it might not work that way. But let me tell you this, the Netherlands concede goals. Now, I've just bigged up their defense, but they do concede goals. So I think that we can get at them. The problem I've got is England don't score goals. So we got to try and change that. We got to try and get in behind them, because they've definitely got weaknesses. I don't look at their midfield and go, wow, if I'm honest. So I think that we can boss their midfield. I think Declan Rice and Kobbie Mainoo have actually done very well in an England shirt. And I think at 19 years old, it's been overlooked and kind of underappreciated how good Kobbie Mainoo has been when he has played for England. And Declan Rice is a beast, man. He's a monster. He's a destroyer. He intercepts. He can lead the game. He can run things. So that's what I'm looking for him to do. And if it is a similar lineup and team that we expect from the last game, then I think we can do that in midfield. And once you win that midfield battle, you can then look to Bellingham's, Foden's, Saka's, Kane's to take you to that next level. And I hope that that's how we can get through the Netherlands, because I think they're beatable, bruv.
Yeah, before we wrap up, you're right. The only concern I got is I don't think the way Kane's played so far in the tournament, Holly, I don't think Van Dijk and De Vrij and even Van der Ven, if he comes on, will be worried, because I hear people keep saying he needs runners. There's an example in the first half when England played, right? Saka's gone down the right and got in and cut a ball, but I'm like, but what Harry Kane, where are you? You should be there. Like, that's your Shearer said in commentaries, right? It's not necessarily always a job of a winger to pick you out, pinpoint all the time as a striker. It's about sometimes him getting the ball in the right areas, and the striker you should be anticipating. So I want to say, before we wrap up, a big up to the people in the chat for watching, and when they do watch this back eventually. A few stats as Potsy mentioned about Declan Rice. I've seen some of the stats for the most in the tournament. Most tackles, Jude Bellingham at number 1. Declan Rice comes in at 4. And ball recoveries, Mark Gay is actually top 2 in the Euros, and also Declan Rice is in 4th as well. Most distance covered, you won't be surprised in terms of the tournament. You know who it is, Holly?
I do know who it is.
Who is it then?
I'll let you do the honours. Go on.
Declan Rice. Yep, 63.9 kilometers, followed by Granit Xhaka. So they're doing their thing. But I want to big up the people, like I said in the chat, watch this live on YouTube and Twitter. A smash a like for me and for Albert JTV and Holly's Hotspurs. I want to say a big, massive thank you to the main man himself from the Football 12 man. Potsy, where can people find you? Thanks for coming on, bruv.
No, come on, man. Pleasure. Absolutely loved it. Always like talking football. Big up to Holly. Big up to yourself. Make sure everyone's hitting like and subscribe and following both of these people. If you do want to come follow myself, I'll probably do a show a little bit later on some Arsenal transfer news that's happening in the last few hours or so. So come follow me, Dan Arsenal 87 and Football's 12th man. If you do want to come and subscribe, it'd be amazing. So great to see you all. Great to speak to you both. And yeah, big up for having me on, man.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it. So people, smash the like and subscribe to the Football 12th man. It's in the title for Holly's channel and Dan's channel. But we are going to log out now. And I can find that out, Charlie, when I can find it.
I've got so many.
And I've got so many. Fuck, pardon my language. There we go. People, will see you soon. We'll be back on Thursday, Holly, for the review of England's semi-final against Holland. See you soon, people. Bingo. Oh, it's still going. Oh, God.